Hey, Mark Clark here, author of The Problem of God. And the question we're dealing with today is the problem of Jesus, which is pretty central to Christianity. Not only did he exist, but what did he claim about himself? And here's what most people would say. I like Jesus as a leader. I like Jesus as a teacher of general values, of being a good person. We have like famous people who walk around with Jesus in my homeboy t-shirts. But the concept that Jesus would be God, for instance, or that he rose from the dead, that stuff's just mythology. It's not really true. Here's the problem we face, though. We can't get away from the fact that when you actually read Jesus, he didn't give you an option. He actually forces us to the confrontation of dealing with who he claimed to be, which is not just a good teacher, which is not just a good philosopher, but that he's actually God over and over and over again in the New Testament. In the Gospels, Jesus says, I'm God, in ways that his culture would totally understand, which is why multiple times throughout the Gospels they say, let's kill him because he's claiming to be equal with God. He says, I am that I am. He says, me and the Father are one. Constantly going on and on. He took worship onto himself and didn't say, hey, stop worshiping me. Over and over, he actually claims to be God and to be the only way to connect to God himself. And so he forces this issue on us. He claims to do things that only God forgives sin. He claims to, be replacing the temple, which was the very presence of God among the world. And then, of course, he dies and he rises again. And people say, yeah, but the resurrection, that's just, he rose from the dead in your heart. But that's not what Christianity claims. It claims that he really rose from the dead. And if he did, then we need to go on mission for him, and people even died for him in all through history, not because of a nice thought, but because Jesus actually historically, the tomb is empty. That when they got there on Easter morning, he actually was gone. And then he appeared to them over the course of 40 days and said, look, I died, I know, and then I rose again. And people say, yeah, but there's a bunch of theories, because of course, if Easter is true, if Jesus really rose from the dead, then you've got to change your whole life. And so people say, oh, no, and so there's a few theories. One is that they went to the wrong tomb, which, is silly. Another one is that, of course, they had just been there and actually, buried him. And there was guards outside of it. The other one is, they stole the body. But the Roman Empire was really good at guarding things because they knew there would be an uprising at that time if the body was gone, because all these disciples were claiming that he was going to rise from the dead. So if they actually got in and beat up the Roman soldiers, who were like Navy SEALs, and went in and stole the body and said, oh, look, and you got to realize all these guys were killed for this claim. So if you and I create a religion, how long am I getting tortured before I go, okay, I made it up? But all these guys are ripped apart by lions, crucified, thrown off cliffs for the claim that Jesus really rose from the dead. If it was a conspiracy, the only way to do a conspiracy is if one person knows about it. But everybody together would have been like, okay, we have to come up with these lies, we have to say this, and when we're all tortured to death, let's all just claim it's all real. And the other thing, some people say, well, maybe he didn't. There's a classic, very famous theory of this called the swoon theory, that he didn't really die on the cross, that he kind of came off the cross after a little bit, and then he'd walk around and say, look, I rose from the dead. But the reality is, if the Roman Empire knew how to do anything, it was kill people. They killed 6,000 people on a single day. They didn't tend to shove a spear up in somebody and go, oh, look, he's dead, just take him off. And Jesus kind of just woke up later and go, whew, that was close. And then start walking around and saying, I'm risen. Never happened. The only thing that makes sense based on history is that they killed him. And 3 days later, he rose again. And the rise of the early church is based on that premise. And that's why they all died for it. We have to be confronted by the reality that Jesus, and if Jesus really rose from the dead, then your life needs to change. And this is the reality that we all must face. Ask yourself the reason behind the reason that you won't believe in Christianity, that Jesus claimed to be God, and that you should follow his teachings, that he died on a cross and rose again, that we should put our faith and trust in him instead of ourselves. What are the reasons you won't actually believe in that? And I think sometimes the reason behind the reason isn't just because you're smarter than everybody else. It's because you're afraid. It's because of cowardice. It's because you're happy in your own slavery. And what I mean by that is, my grandfather one day actually was abducted in a sense. My brother and I called him up to wish him a Merry Christmas one day, and his number was done, and we canceled, and we tracked him down, and there was these people who had taken, and they were basically taking his money in a sense. And he was living downstairs in the basement in a nice house, and they were draining his bank account. And we went in there to tell him about it. And we said, grandfather, we got to get out of here. These people, they don't really they're just taking your money. They don't really love you. And he looked at me and he said, I don't want to go anywhere. Because he said, I love these 3 square meals a day and these conversations with these people. The reality of the truth of maybe what they're doing, it doesn't matter to me, because this, and I left that and something dawned on me. He doesn't want to be saved. He doesn't want to be free from this, even if truth becomes irrelevant. It's what feels good in the moment. And that's a dangerous thing for you and me, to be enslaved to the aesthetical value of life over what's true, to what feels good versus what might be true, because what is true might shake us out of our own comfort and call us to something deeper, where we have to organize our money and our sex life and our families and our businesses around a higher calling than what might feel right in a moment. But allow yourself the challenge of that, because that really is the risk and the adventure of Christianity.